You know, it's been a little over 20 years since the Lord of the Rings trilogy hit theatres, and yet, in all that time, no battle scene has even come close to the sheer brilliance of Helm's Deep. To this day, it stands as one of the greatest battles ever put on screen, and today I want to give this sequence the honour it deserves and break down exactly why it's so damn good. For anyone who hasn't revisited the Lord of the Rings in a while, here's the setup. After learning that Saruman has unleashed wild men to burn and raid the villages of Rohan, Théoden gathers his people and leads them to Helm's Deep, an ancient fortress said to be impenetrable. But on the way they're attacked, and Aragorn, separated from the group, catches a glimpse of what's coming. Saruman's 10,000 Uruk-hai marching straight toward the stronghold. He makes it back just in time to deliver the warning. With nowhere left to run, the people of Rohan have no choice but to make their stand. Now, one of the things that doesn't get talked about enough when it comes to Helm's Deep is how Peter Jackson returns to his roots for this sequence. Before The Lord of the Rings, Jackson cut his teeth on horror films, and you can feel that DNA all over the build-up to Helm's Deep. He stretches the anticipation to its breaking point. Silence before the storm, rain hammering down, the sheer dread of watching the endless masses of Uruk-hai marching forward, knowing there's literally nowhere to run. The lighting itself leans into the horror atmosphere. We even get close-ups of the Uruk-hai at the climax of the build-up, and they're shot with wide lenses pressed right up against their faces, exaggerating their grotesque, otherworldly and terrifying presence. Horror films thrive on suspense. They drag it out, building suspense before hitting audiences with that sudden jump scare. Here, Jackson takes that same technique, but instead of delivering a jump scare, he delivers a battle. He spends close to 15 minutes just on actual build-up here, and when you lay it out, you see how carefully he paces it. We watch men and even boys being called to fight, saying goodbye to their wives and families. Legolas warns they're all marching to their deaths. Théoden delivers a quiet monologue that almost feels like he's already accepted defeat. We get insert shots of the endless number of Uruk-hai marching, the weight of inevitability shown visually. Legolas apologises to Aragorn for speaking out of turn. Then Haldir arrives with the elves, ready to stand shoulder to shoulder with men once more. We have Aragorn reassuring a young boy that there's always hope. And then there's the added build-up of tension when the Uruk-hai actually arrive at the walls, which is a mini masterclass in and of itself. The epicness of it all is being stretched like a rubber band. So when the battle finally gets underway, the clash itself is that rubber band being released. The sheer scale and epicness of what follows lands with the same force as a cinematic jump scare. The battle itself is epic, no doubt, but without that 15 minutes of drawn out build-up, would it really hit as hard as it does? The Uruk-hai begin charging the wall, and we cut to this extreme wide shot. It's an absolute epic shot that geographically shows us the scale of imbalance. The thin line of elves on the wall, with this massive ocean of Uruk-hai that stretches across the frame, about to crush against them. It's the visual equation of hopeless odds. Something else Jackson does effectively in the Battle of Helm's Deep is play into our subconscious understanding of frame direction, specifically frame left and frame right. I've covered this idea in previous videos, but if you're new here, here's the gist. Audiences naturally associate movement from left to right with progress, authority, victory, etc. It's baked into us through the way we read and write, left to right. Here, Jackson establishes that visual dynamic early. Our heroes are consistently pinned on the left side of frame, while the Uruk-hai advance from the right. Without even realising it, we feel that pressure building. On a subconscious level, it looks like our characters are being squeezed, forced backwards, unable to move forward. We understand it narratively, they're backed into a mountain, but the frame direction makes us feel it. And what's clever is that Jackson could have easily covered much of the battle in reverse. From Théoden's vantage point, it would have made perfect sense to frame the action the other way. His viewpoint actually offers a clearer perspective of the fight, but instead Jackson chooses to continuously keep the Uruk-hai pressing from screen right to left. Notice when our characters squeeze a small victory though. When Aragorn and Gimli leap to the ramp, we see a rare reversal. For the first time their movement shifts right to left, pushing the Uruk-hai back and buying Théoden time to seal the gate. Even the score swells in this moment to accompany it. Subconsciously we register it as a mini triumph, and the frame direction aids that. Then comes the biggest shift of all, Gandalf's arrival. Once again Jackson mirrors the earlier extreme wide shot of the fortress, but this time it's the Rohirrim charging left to right. It's visual poetry. The frame direction tells us what words can't. The tide has shifted, and this shot actually encapsulates one of the most important themes of the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy. But we're not there yet. Let's go back to the breach. When the Uruk-hai breach the walls with their ladders, the first soldiers to hit the front lines are these guys. And let's be honest, these guys are terrifying. They're known as Berserkers, and they're genuinely unsettling. Even if you know nothing about Middle-earth lore, your instincts kick in and tell you these guys are some fearless savages. Part of it is simple psychology. They're practically naked, no armor to protect them, just a helmet and a blade as they literally throw themselves into the fight, showing no regard for their lives. What I only learned later is that this wasn't just for effect. Berserkers are meant to be an even tougher, more fearsome breed of Uruk-hai. According to the lore, their tight-fitting helmets were filled with the blood of their enemy, the smell driving them into a bloodlust that dulled pain and heightened their rage. They wore no armor because they didn't care about survival. Their only purpose was to smash through defenses, establish a bridgehead, and to fight until the death. It's the visual escalation of everything Jackson has been building toward, the horror finally breaking through, literally and figuratively. One really clever thing to note with the ladders is how Jackson isn't just capturing the ingenuity of the Uruk-hai, he's using them to tether us to the characters we care about. Let me explain. He presents a clear obstacle, that being the ladders, and then shows how each of our heroes responds in their own way. Aragorn hurls himself onto one, using his weight to bring it crashing down. Legolas shoots the pulley, snapping the rope and sending the ladder toppling backward. And Gimli straight up plants himself at the entry point, cutting down Uruk-hai as they climb. It's a smart visual storytelling amid the frenzy, every character reacting to the same problem, but in a way that perfectly reflects their personality and fighting style. Without moments like this, the battle would blur into unreadable noise. But because we're constantly checking in with characters we know, the scale never overwhelms the storytelling. It's one of the many reasons why you can follow every beat of Helm's Deep without getting confused or lost. In fact, even when the Uruk-hai blast the wall, Jackson keeps us tethered to Théoden. It's one of the biggest turning points in the entire battle, and it's Théoden's reaction we cut to. Earlier we saw him defiant and confident.
Is this all you can conjure, Saruman?
But now the same man watches his fortress explode before his eyes, and it's no line of dialogue that tells us the shift, it's his face. That contrast from defiance to disbelief says everything. Jackson knows that if we feel it through the king, we'll feel it for everyone. So the Berserkers establish the bridgehead and the fighting begins, but something else is happening throughout this entire sequence. Something you only really notice if you're watching with a critical eye. And for that, cinematographer Andrew Lesnie deserves all the praise. The battle's intensity isn't just from the scale or the sound, it's from how immersive the shots are. Lesnie lays the groundwork through lighting. It's moody, dense, atmospheric, plunging us straight into the chaos. But it's his shot composition that really pulls us in. For example, when Aragorn calls for the elves on the backline to fire, we get this incredible shot. Aragorn front and center, the elves behind him, and as they release, the camera pans with the arrows as they arc across the battlefield. The arrows whip past the lens so close, it's like you could reach out and grab one. When we cut to the Uruk-hai, they charge past the frame, brushing the lens. Or when the ladders slam against the wall, Uruk-hai fill the foreground, practically colliding with us. Even when they carry the bomb to the wall, the camera is low, looking through the bodies. There's even that incredible perspective shot when the camera takes on the POV of the arrows, or rubble tumbling straight past us after the explosion. Over and over, the camera is right in the thick of it. The action always feels close, layered, and alive. Shots like these are scattered all throughout the battle, and they're what make it so immersively engaging. Foreground elements constantly move across the frame, giving the shots a sense of depth and immediacy. And when you combine that with the rapid cutting, it traps the audience inside the fight. But what's so incredible is how well balanced these tight, layered, immersive shots are, with the sweeping, camera-moving wides peppered throughout the battle. It creates this rhythm, moving from the intimate to the epic, back to the intimate, then back to the epic, and that rhythm makes the sequence feel alive. One moment you're shoulder to shoulder with Aragorn, the next you're watching a full-scale siege unfold from above. The tension between being inside the battle and watching the battle is what makes it so hypnotic. The editing of this 45-minute sequence is no easy feat, but what's remarkable is how effortless it feels. The battle flows seamlessly, yet beneath that flow is an enormous amount of control. Jackson and his editors give us breaks, moments to breathe. They know that the constant chaos would exhaust us, so they intercut the storylines at just the right moments, often leaving the battle on a mini cliffhanger. Each cutaway contrasts perfectly with the carnage, quieter scenes that reset our focus and let the tension build again from zero. But let's just focus on the battle itself, say. We're constantly jumping from the wall, to the gate, to the keep, to the ramp, to the women and children hiding in the caves, yet we're never lost or confused. As I mentioned before, Jackson always keeps us tethered to characters we know, using them as emotional anchors, which definitely helps with this. But think about that for a second. We're cutting through an entire fortress mid-siege, and at no point are we confused. Every spatial shift feels natural, every escalation clear. That's something modern blockbusters often get wrong. So many contemporary battle sequences feel like noise. Fast cuts, shaky cameras, geography that makes no sense. You're not in the fight, you're catching up to it. But Helm's Deep never loses you. You always know where you are, who's fighting and what's at stake. The chaos is coherent. And guys, this battle sequence runs for about 45 minutes. 45. Just think about that. Try writing a 1-minute fight scene, then try 3 minutes, then 5. It's bloody hard, isn't it? You start running out of ideas, momentum, and emotion real fast. Now imagine writing a 45-minute battle that not only sustains tension, but keeps building it. I know most of the groundwork was done by Tolkien himself, but Jackson goes on to craft a sequence packed with stakes, obstacles, character moments, emotional beats, rhythmic pacing, visual clarity, and thematic weight, and then delivers on all of it through the filmmaking. And what's even crazier is that it never stops feeling personal. But the cherry on top of all this is something the video essayist, the Nerdwriter, pointed out in his breakdown of the Helm's Deep battle. He explains how the structure of the battle closely mirrors a traditional 3-act film. I'll let him explain.
If you were to graph the progress of the battle along an axis of how close the heroes were to victory or defeat, it would look something like this. What strikes me right away is that this shape resembles almost exactly a traditional story arc in miniature, complete with inciting incident, growing obstacles, mini triumphs, and a roaring victorious climax just when things are at their most dire. Helm's Deep really is a movie within a movie. It has a fully realized narrative structure that parallels the narrative shape of the trilogy.
So, the filmmaking is top tier, we know this, but what does it all mean? Here's how I see it, and why I think this battle hits audiences on such a deep emotional level. The Battle of Helm's Deep was never a "we must win this fight to save the world" kind of battle, like so many hollow blockbusters are today. It's rooted in fear, in desperation, in the quiet acceptance of death. You feel it when Legolas admits everyone's going to die. You see it in Théoden's eyes when he half accepts defeat before the battle even begins. And I think that's why this particular battle resonates so powerfully, because beyond the spectacle, it captures one of Tolkien's most enduring themes: darkness overcome by light. It's a visual embodiment of hope in the face of despair, of faith when logic says there's none to be had. The overall battle reflects Tolkien's deeply embedded Christian worldview, that even when the night feels endless, the light will always return. And Jackson translates that theme directly into cinema. The battle begins in pitch darkness, drenched in rain and shadow, hopeless odds. But when Gandalf crests the ridge at dawn, light quite literally breaks through the darkness. The colour palette has shifted from cold blues and blacks to radiating golds and whites. It's not just the arrival of reinforcements, it's the symbolic victory of hope over fear, of faith over doubt. And maybe that's why Helm's Deep endures. It's not just the greatest battle ever committed to the screen, it's a visual sermon on courage, hope and endurance. We don't cheer because our heroes win, we cheer because they held on long enough for the light to return.